Mark says, what's your boy Donald up to now? It's 2018. Epstein says, all good. Bannon with me. This is when him and Bannon were becoming very close. Mark says, ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. Photos of Trump blowing Bubba. I'm forever blowing Bubba. Bubba. Jeffrey Epstein says, and I thought I had Surus. That is a Yiddish word, I think, and it means troubles. And Mark Epstein says, you and your boy Donnie can make a remake of the movie Get Hard, okay? And then Epstein writes back, you mean Donnie T? And then Mark writes back, I'd rather be in Donnie D's shoes. Oh my God. Hey, it's the Goblin Queen. Welcome to the stream, guys. Thank you for tuning in. I'm excited for the stream. I think this is going to be like a pretty epic stream. I don't know. It's so lame to say that, but I feel like this is the moment that, I don't know, I've been waiting for, along with everyone else who's been watching these streams, where I've been going really hardcore into like Epstein research. See, it just seemed like something people were interested in, and definitely is one of my interests in like conspiracy theories in general, but particularly with the Epstein stuff. So I'm pretty up on like a lot of Epstein knowledge, and I know a lot of the names of people involved in Epstein. I actually have a whole fucking spreadsheet that I keep of like people who are involved with Epstein. And oh my God, like 5 days ago, it's not even really last week. It's like just this recent week, the largest ever drop of documentary evidence about Epstein shit dropped. We got 20,000 emails from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. Oh my God. Like, if you thought that people were intense, like combing through flight logs and like old interviews and like Epstein's like black book of like addresses, like that was nothing. Now we have Epstein's actual conversations with people. This is like a whole new fucking world of shit. Oh yeah, as soon as I saw the email drop, I knew this is manna from heaven for Chill Goblin. No. If you're in the Chill Goblin Discord, we've been kind of going crazy about this, pouring over them, getting to know all the different ins and outs. I mean, there's still so much to uncover, but I thought, at least for today's stream, I put together like a bunch of what I think are the most interesting things, as well as some things I just think people probably want to hear about. And we go over them. And I mean, I feel like I have so much shit to talk about. I know we've got a lot of, at least I'm guessing we've got a few people who first time watching the stream. Welcome. And also, please subscribe. Oh God, I desperately need some subscribers. Please subscribe, send this link to a friend, to 6 friends, or you'll have bad luck, okay? Chain email style. Just kidding. You can do what you want. I'll respect you either way. But yeah, are we ready to go? So should we get into it? Let's start from the beginning here. The first thing that got released was just 3 emails. There was a 3 email release by the Democrats. They released them. All 3 emails have to do with Donald Trump. All 3 of these emails. Then the Republicans were like, oh, you're going to release those 3? Well, what about these 20,000? And then they dropped 20,000 emails. That's a lot. That's a big number. It's a big number of emails. So now we have approximately 20,003 emails to look through. I don't know what the exact number is, but something around that. But let's look at the first 3 first, because obviously these ones were released with a political purpose. I mean, the other ones were too, but the political purpose for this one was to damage Trump. And I think, the way people have been going, release the Epstein files, most of that, or at least some of that, is directly about Trump himself and his potential inclusion in these files. And as it turns out, Trump is mentioned a lot in the files. I've seen some pretty crazy numbers. To be fair, though, a lot of that is because for a big chunk of time during which we have these emails, Trump was president and Epstein was talking about U.S. politics. I never met Trump in person, but if you searched Trump in my emails, it would come up a lot. I talk about Trump all the time. We all do. He is a remarkable person. He's worthy of being remarked upon. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so 3 emails released by Democrats. The first one here, this is a letter from Jeffrey Epstein, or actually this is a letter from Jeffrey Epstein to the journalist. I say generously, calling this guy a journalist, but he's written a lot of books. I've read quite a few of them actually. A lot of them had Epstein as a source, as a direct source. Like his most famous book, probably Fire and Fury, that everyone's like, liberal aunt probably has on her shelf from 2016. And this dude, he wrote this book, this really like trash talking Trump and a bunch of crazy unproven claims about Trump that seem true. But it turned out, it later was revealed that one of his primary sources means a specific thing that I don't necessarily mean here, but one of his main sources of information here was Jeffrey Epstein. So this is a email with Jeffrey and Michael Wolff. This is from 2019. So this is after Fire and Fury, but he kept giving him info for his other books. There's several. There's Fire and Fury. There's Landslide. There's Too Famous. Those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head. But they're all about Trump, basically. And Epstein was a major source for all of them. But anyway, so I'm not sure which one this one would be. Probably Too Famous, I guess. This is pretty, this is like, January 31st, 2019. So this is like, what would that be, like 8 months before Epstein was arrested and and died, let's just say, in prison. So here we go. Bleeped out name. Censored name, redacted name, victim, Mar-a-Lago. Redacted sentence. Trump said he asked me to resign, never remember ever. Of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. All right, so if you're a little bit unclear on all that, this is Epstein saying that Trump claims that he asked Epstein to resign the club at Mar-a-Lago to, you're not in the club anymore because you keep recruiting girls here. Epstein is saying, that's not true. I was never remember ever. Although, according to another book called, what was it called? It was a book about Mar-a-Lago. What is it called? I forget what it's called. It's called like the Rich Kids Club or something like that. I forget. But that, according to that book, the authors of that book saw a members list of people and they were like, oh, it looks like Epstein was still a member until 2018. So I don't know. Maybe Epstein didn't realize he was a member or whatever. Either way, Epstein does say, of course he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. So Ghislaine, I'm trying not to get ahead of myself here. Just for anybody who doesn't know this piece of Epstein lore, Virginia Giuffre, who is a victim of Epstein's, who was by far the most vocal about her experience there. If it weren't for Virginia Giuffre, you and I would know nothing about Jeffrey Epstein. We probably would not know his name. But because of Virginia Giuffre's bravery, speaking up for years, back, I think the first time she came out in public, the Daily Mail was, 2011? And for years, people just sort of assumed that it was complete bullshit, what she was saying. And, it sounds, if you had never heard of Epstein and somebody tried to explain to you this without having newspaper articles and leaked emails to tell you about it, you wouldn't believe them either. I wouldn't believe them either. But pretty much like everything that she said has later on been corroborated. So Virginia Giuffre is a major character. She's mentioned in a lot of emails here. Epstein and Ghislaine talk about her a lot. If you watched Ghislaine's, or if you listened or read Ghislaine's interview with Todd Blanche recently, a couple months ago, she's still very upset about Virginia Giuffre. This is like an obsession of theirs because Virginia was the one who caused their whole fucking operation to become public knowledge. Virginia Giuffre recently passed away a few months ago, I guess, really. What was it, this past summer, I think? And she had a book published posthumously called Nobody's Girl by Virginia Giuffre. A heartbreaking book, so hard to read. Oh, God, so hard to read. That poor woman went through so much. But I've recently read it, so it applies to a lot of this. I have some quotes I'll be reading later. But anyway, so that's just for anybody who doesn't know who Virginia Giuffre is. She's a major character. She'll be coming up a lot. That's who the victim is here. Virginia was recruited at Mar-a-Lago. And apparently after she worked at Mar-a-Lago as like a locker room attendant. After she left, apparently Trump told Ghislaine she had to stop recruiting there. So this is what Epstein's writing to Michael Wolff. Okay, that's email number 1. Okay, hopefully it won't take me that long to get through all of these emails. Here we go. Email number 2. This one, actually, I'm going to skip this one for a second. Let's go straight to the other one. This is a series of emails between Michael Wolff and Jeffrey Epstein. The first one's from Michael Wolff. I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in scrum afterwards. I don't know what that means. In scrum? In scrum? What does that mean? In scrum? Like in private conversation, I guess? And Epstein says, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? That's like a weird question. So it's like Trump's going to be asked tonight. This is 2015, December 15th. So this is not even 2016 yet. You know, the Trump campaign is not in full swing yet. And this question was never asked of Trump in 2015 at this point. Or maybe it was in Scrum, whatever that means. I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in Scrum afterwards. Epstein says, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? Like, I don't even know what that means. Like, if we were able to craft an answer for Trump? You know, anyway, like Epstein hates Trump at this point. They've had their falling out. They haven't been friends for years. Anyway, it's a little bit confusing, but Michael Wolff just responds, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you, or if it really looks like you could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that, when asked, he'll say, Jeffrey's a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. Now, Epstein doesn't say much in this exchange, but from the way Michael Wolff is talking to him, it does kind of seem like, oh, so Epstein definitely has compromising information about Trump, right? Like, you could hang him in a way. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, that gives you like leverage. You can hang him. That generates a positive benefit for you. Or if he might actually win, you could save him, generating it. Then you'd have a debt to you from the president. So it's just interesting. I mean, one of the people who came out looking the worst in this whole thing is definitely Michael Wolff. This guy was like very close with Epstein and was really trying to help him. This is in 2015. All right, so that's the other one. And now I will read the third one. So those two, like as Tom the Finland Station points out, Epstein also seems like a big liar. Epstein was a big liar. This is a known thing about Epstein. He loves to lie, to tell people, oh, I studied math with the Unabomber. Not true. Their timelines don't match up at all. Impossible for that to happen. Oh, I'm a brain scientist. He told some of the survivors that he was a brain scientist, whatever that means. Not true. He was not a brain scientist. There's one story where he went to visit Mark Middleton in the Clinton White House, and sitting in the thing, he talked to one of his aides, and the guy was like, "What do you do?" And he's like, "I'm a U.S. Marine." Epstein said that, and the guy who was asking him actually was a Marine. He's like, "What unit were you in?" And Epstein was like, you got me. Sorry. A little bit of stolen valor. Hey, what are you gonna do? And everybody was apparently cool with it. But no, this guy used to lie. This guy loved to lie. You know, he's like a pathological liar. He lied when it didn't even benefit him at all. So you got to take everything he says with a grain of salt, especially when he's talking to Michael Wolff, a journalist who's like writing shit about him. He's probably not going to say things that make him look too bad. However, this third email, this one is, I think, the most important one of the three that the Democrats picked out. Oops. Okay, here we go. So this is from Epstein to Ghislaine. Now, look at the date on this. Saturday, April 2nd, 2011. This is right around the time, and we'll actually maybe look into this week later, because there's a few emails between them that are interesting. But this is from the week that Virginia Giuffre's first article was published in the Daily Mail newspaper in Britain. And so this was a major, this is basically like a catastrophe moment for Ghislaine and Epstein. And this is what's happening here. The context is Epstein, Ghislaine is freaking out. You know, she's like, what the fuck? Like, is my whole life going to fucking fall apart right now? My reputation's going to be ruined. What the hell? And Epstein is trying to calm her down. That's what's going on here. So Epstein says, I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim, redacted in the original, spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. So sorry, it's a little hard to read. I might not be zoomed in very much for you guys to read on the screen. But yeah, this is a weird one. This is a weird one. And then Ghislaine responds, I have been thinking about that. You know, so this is a weird email, and I think this is a lot more interesting because it's not between Epstein and Michael Wolff, a journalist who's writing books about him and shit. This is between Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, someone who was there around all the abuse, around everything that was going on, who was recruiting girls for Epstein and participating in the sexual assaults of them. Like, there's no reason for Epstein to be dishonest with Ghislaine. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is, I think, way more interesting than the Michael Wolff ones, which as Finland points out, that we can't really take anything he says seriously. But in this one, I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. So a little bit hard to parse. Epstein's obviously not a great typist. Actually really funny. So we've already, a little bit of an aside here, but just to do with how bad Epstein is at spelling and writing. We did already know about this email, geevacation@gmail.com. And knowing that email has allowed Epstein researchers to find things like his Spotify account and whatever, like other things. But we did not know about two other emails that appeared in this leak. I think it's, what is it called? J. Epstein iTunes or something like that, or maybe it's jeeitunes@gmail.com. I forget exactly what the thing is. But then the third one, this is so fucking hilarious. The third email is jeevacation. It's vacation with a Y instead of a V. This guy's so bad at spelling that he started an email account with a typo in it and used it a lot. So we'll see at least some yaycation emails in here. Mostly it's vacation, but yeah, we learned some shit here. Yeah, he can't lie much to her. Now, what do we think this means? I've seen some people talking about, this is a Sherlock Holmes reference. There's a Sherlock Holmes story, the dog that didn't bark or something like that, about a murderer goes in and kills somebody and then leaves, and the dog didn't bark. So Sherlock Holmes figures out that because the dog didn't bark, that means that the murderer must have been known to the dog. Now, I don't think that really makes sense. Like, I don't really think you can interpret it in that way where it's like, oh, Trump hasn't said anything, therefore we've learned that the person must be close to Trump or something like I don't think that really makes sense. I really think this just means the dog that hasn't barked means like guy who hasn't ratted me out. Like the guy who hasn't spoke up. What is with me? What is with me and past tense verbs today? I just think this means I want you to realize that the person that hasn't ratted us out is Trump. I don't know. Does anybody have an alternative explanation? Because I don't really see how the Sherlock Holmes thing would make any sense there. Blank spent hours at my house. Now, so in the original, victim is blanked out. All right. Actually, hang on. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the victim's name was redacted in the initial leak. Then the GOP, this was a pretty hilarious move, but they released all 20,000 emails, which is so crazy. It's as if they were trying to bury those 3 emails. So they released these 20,000. Now, it's interesting. I do think the absolute worst case scenario for the conservatives would be to have these emails be leaked a little by little, time over time, sort of like how WikiLeaks leaked the Podesta emails, like just a chunk every day leading up to the election. Like that's the way to keep these things in the news and to give like the researchers a bite-sized chunk to look through at a time. This way, I think like their gamble was maybe it'll flare up and be out of the news cycle quickly. I don't think that's, I don't know, maybe we'll never know what would have been smarter, but it does seem to me like a blunder. But one thing is, in their release of these emails, they do redact a lot of the victims' names, but in this particular email, the name is not redacted. And we have Varignia, which is the Epstein typing language for Virginia. Obviously. Now, in this way, I will agree, though, while I'm not totally convinced that leaking 20,000 emails was a smart move by the GOP, I do think the Dems fucked up here. The Dems fucked it up because the redacted name being Virginia is unfortunate. Because remember, this is an email between Ghislaine and Jeffrey. This is Jeffrey writing to Ghislaine saying, what was it? Virginia spent hours at my house with him. He's never once been mentioned. Now, the reason this was a fuck up by them is Virginia has always said, I don't think this has been 2016 from a deposition. I don't think Donald Trump participated in anything. That would have to be another assumption. I never saw or witnessed Donald Trump participate in those acts, but was he in the house of Jeffrey Epstein? I've heard he has been, but I haven't seen him myself, so I don't know. So this is a little weird because Epstein said Trump spent hours in the house. Obviously, as well, we have to keep in mind, this is a survivor of sexual assault. Maybe she's, saying something that isn't true. Maybe she's, she's worried. She's like a lot of people might think, oh, well, maybe she was afraid that Donald Trump might do something to her. Like, he's a powerful man. Even in 2016, this is from January 2016. So it's like early in the campaign, really. He's not the president yet. No one really thinks he's going to win, but he's still a powerful man that she might have been afraid of and may have lied to exonerate him when that wasn't really the case. I don't think I don't think so though. Not with Virginia, because this is the same person who accused Prince Andrew of sexual assault. She went to court with Prince Andrew. She got a massive settlement, millions of pounds. She accused Alan Dershowitz of sexual assault, went to court with him, received a unknown settlement. She accused Ghislaine Maxwell. She went to court with her, received a settlement. Like and again, like I said, everything we know about Epstein, we only know because of Virginia. So I don't think she would have held back on this unless she genuinely didn't remember meeting Trump or something like that. Like, I mean, maybe that's what happened here. She does say in her book, like, she wasn't really introduced to a lot of these guys that she was trafficked to. She only just found out about them later based on, like, journalists would show her a photo. Did you get trafficked to this guy? Yes, I did. That guy. Oh, really? That's Ehud Barak. Oh, who's he? Like a academic or something like that? Oh, no, that's the Prime Minister of Israel. So, like at the time, she was like a child. She didn't know who she was getting shipped around to. R.I.P. Virginia. So this fuck up has led to the party line on Trump, which is pretty well summed up in this post by the Twitter user Solionath. Not sure what that means. Solionath says, so let me get this straight. With the release of Epstein's emails, we found out that Epstein hated Trump, didn't trust him, they weren't friends. The New York Times directly worked with Epstein to suppress stories about him. One of the journalists from New York Times would be like letting him know when people were looking into him. By the way, this guy's trying to help him out. After Brad Edwards, the lawyer for the accusers, said that Trump was the only individual to cooperate and help, Epstein said Trump didn't have one decent cell in his body. This was also compelling that the Democrats faked the redaction of a supposed victim's name. The name they blocked was Virginia Giuffre, who publicly testified that Trump was innocent. Oh, and also, Russiagate was confirmed a hoax, just like we said. Our Democrats, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is, hard to forget Trump. I agree, Finland. I agree. But yeah, she says here, I've heard he's been in the house, but I haven't seen him myself. Epstein to Ghislaine said she was in the house for hours with Trump. Who knows? Who knows what's going on with that? It's hard to figure out. We would only be guessing. But this was retweeted by Donald Trump Jr. This is essentially exactly the fucking exact same line Caroline Leavitt has been going with. The redacted name was Virginia, blah, 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 blah. This seems to be like the Democrats fucked up here. They fucked up. Now that we've seen the 20,000 emails, there are other emails that I would have put out instead. But those are the three that they wanted to drop, and they kind of shot themselves in the foot, I have to say. Even when they are doing the things we want, releasing the Epstein files, they're still fucking it up. Yeah, maybe Epstein forgot. That's totally possible as well. She was in the house with somebody else. I can see that also being the case. Just a little fun fact about this person, though, Solionath. They are also a pedophile and a Nazi. Don't really feel the need to read this out, but yeah, this is why I say like a lot of like QAnon shit and a lot of like people who care about the Epstein files they're not so much anti-pedophile as they are like as it is like poor pedophiles who are jealous of the rich pedophiles. It's like pedophile will occupy Wall Street. They're like, hey, they can't get away with that. If I tried to do that, I wouldn't be able to. People get mad at me for posting Japanese pedophile porn on my Twitter, and Epstein gets away with all that. Like, it's like pedophile class consciousness. It's a recurring theme. Not everybody, obviously, who's against Epstein, but a lot of the like QAnon, Pizzagate types. Yes, that is it. That is a thing. Now, okay, here is unpopular opinion here, guys. You guys might not like this. You guys might not like this, but I'm being honest here. I'm telling you what I think. I'm telling you what I think based on the evidence. Blah, 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 blah. Here's what I think about this Trump thing. I actually do think this email with the, redacted name, which we know is Virginia, I do think this is exonerating a little bit for Trump, at least insofar about the claim that Trump himself was a beneficiary of Epstein trafficking children. Yeah, that's right. She already had a prior association with Trump. She had known him, I believe, like somewhat in person, just from seeing him around the club and stuff. So she would have recognized him for sure. Yeah, she worked for Trump at Mar-a-Lago. And of course we know, like, she was the reason, or at least we assume from what he told Michael Wolff, Virginia was the reason that Trump talked to Ghislaine and said, stop recruiting. But here's what I think. Epstein writing to Ghislaine, trying to calm her down. Ghislaine and Epstein knew about everything that was done to Virginia, everyone that she was trafficked to, obviously. It would be one of the two of them saying, hey, go give him a massage and treat him the same way that you treat me or that you treat Jeffrey. Like, go and give him that treatment. And then she knew that meant have sex with them. Now, if he was writing to Guylaine, why would he say Virginia spent hours at my house with him instead of, so-and-so had sex with him, right? But wouldn't you think, this is when everything's blowing up, right? 2011. The dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Virginia spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Actually, you know what? I'm sort of thinking about this, and maybe I'll backpedal that a little bit, because I do think that because it's not that he's not talking about, like, he's specifically talking about Virginia, and because of the timing here, 2011, this is the Daily Mail article from Sharon Churcher about Virginia. So now that I'm thinking about it, maybe this is because maybe they're specifically talking about spent hours at my house with him rather than trafficked, because Virginia herself never was trafficked to him, but maybe other girls were. So actually, maybe I'll back up on that a little bit. I do think that this email makes Trump look pretty good, though. So it's unfortunate that it was chosen, number one, that the Democrats even chose this as one to strategically release, and number two, that they redacted Virginia's name, which made it look like they were covering up something. Yeah. But yeah, what he is saying there is Trump knows about the girls. He says that in another email that we read already. Of course, Trump knew about the girls, right? He asked, of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Guylaine to stop. So I think, to me, what I may be getting out of this is, Trump probably didn't have kids, or at least Virginia trafficked to him, but he didn't see the girls. He knew about the girls, obviously. That's sort of what the vibe I get from this. And I get it. Hey, I get it. I get why people are hashtag pedophile Trump. For what it's worth, I do think Trump is probably had non-consensual sex with underage children. But I do think, though, we can safely say Trump did know about what Epstein was doing. In fact, the part that I read earlier, I don't think Trump participated in anything. That would have been an assumption. I never saw when Donald Trump participated in those acts, but yada, yada, yada. Now, if we look at that part of the thing, it comes right after this. How many times, so this is the question to Virginia, how many times did somebody have to come to an Epstein property for you to have the same assumption about that person? Virginia says, I would say the first time they came to that property, there's nude pictures everywhere. These are salacious acts of girls, young girls, doing things to each other that would be considered child pornography. If you walked foot into Jeffrey Epstein's house and you went in there and you continued to be an acquaintance of his, then you would have to know what was going on there. So Donald Trump was, in your mind, you believe, a witness to the sexual abuse of minors. And then she says, I don't think Trump participated in anything. That would have to be another assumption. I never saw or witnessed Donald Trump participate in those acts. But was he in the house of Jeffrey Epstein? I've heard he has been, but I haven't seen him myself, so I don't know. So she is being sort of careful here, but I think that what we can really get from this full context is, yes, Trump knew about the girls. Now, was Trump ever at Epstein's house? Well, he says he wasn't, but in March 2003, we have two news sources. East Side Townhouse. This is an Epstein house party written about in New York Magazine. Guest list: Mark Zuckerman, Google co-founder Sergey Brin, David Blaine, Donald Trump, Leslie Wexner, Peter Mandelson, Bill Clinton, Doug Band. Now, that's pretty good. What about this one? The Talented Mr. Epstein. This was one of the famous ones. This is the one by Vicky Ward in Vanity Fair. Let's see. Hang on. Trump. Here we go. Some of the businessmen who dine with him at his home, they include newspaper publisher Mark Zuckerman, banker Louis Ranieri, blah, 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 blah. Real estate personality Donald Trump. So we have two contemporary sources from 2003 saying, yes, Trump used to hang out at Epstein's house. Okay, I don't believe those guys. That's the liberal media. They lie. That's what they do, is they lie. They're the liberal media, the lamestream media, the lie smear gal media. Liberal is what I was trying to make a pun on. I don't know. It didn't really work. Well, what about Roger Stone? Because Roger Stone wrote a book about how bad the Clintons were in 2015 called The Clintons' War on Women. And at one point, he quotes Donald Trump. And Donald Trump says in Roger Stone's book, he says, the one time I visited his Palm Beach home, this is Trump speaking. Actually, let me do a Trump impression just to make it absolutely clear. The one time I visited his Palm Beach home, the swimming pool was full of beautiful young girls. How nice, I thought. He let the neighborhood kids use his pool. Throws in like a little joke there. Okay, well, it definitely seems like Trump has been over at his house, number one, and has seen the girls there. Now, here's another email. This would be one that they could have put up on the Democrat leak, but they didn't. We found this one this is one of the 20,000 from Landon Thomas Jr. This is a New York Times writer, and he wrote the New York Magazine article, which you've heard this quote before. I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. Trump booms from a speakerphone. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. Many of them on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. Now, Trump has said he never said that. He said that Epstein wrote that for him. That was not true. That was obviously false. Now, Epstein replies back to him, read the BuzzFeed article about my airplane logs and Hawaiian tropic contest. Have them ask my houseman about Donad, actually says, almost walking through the door, leaving his nose print on the glass as young women were swimming in the pool, and he was so focused that he walked straight into the door. That's it. Okay, yeah. I mean, I feel like that's probably what Trump was talking about in Roger Stone's book, right? The swimming pool is full of beautiful young girls. He let the neighborhood kids use his pool. Yeah, he was looking at, as he was thinking that to himself, how nice. He let the neighborhood, he smashed into a fucking glass window or glass door. Yeah, that'll look good. Here's another one from one of the victims sent this to Epstein. She was saying, hey, I'm at your house. You know, I'm outside. Is that 2512 for the gate? Thumbs up. You can tell that they're young because they're using emojis in 2017. Oh, I guess that's actually not that long ago. 2017. Oh, that's interesting. That's in 2017? Wait. Okay, I didn't check that before. That's interesting, though. That's interesting, 2017. Sorry, is that 2512 for the gate? Thumbs up. Epstein says yes. She says, I'm at the door, but I will wait for my time. I don't want to come early to find Trump in your house. Laughing face, laughing face. I mean, that might be a joke, because as far as we know, Epstein and Trump didn't hang out after, they're falling out in 2004. Although there are some emails that which might suggest otherwise. Yeah, this is when he was president. This is like, he's been president for like a year at this point. 2 years. This is like the QAnon era. Don't want to come early to find Trump in your house. Oh, that's interesting. Anyway, now here's my thing. Like I said, I think these emails paint a picture to me that Trump absolutely knew about Epstein and the underage girls. Not that he had them trafficked to him, but here's something. Now this might seem unrelated, but here's a 4chan post I think about all the time. This is from Pizzagate era. This is from October 2016. Actually slightly before Pizzagate really took off. But this was while people on 4chan were analyzing the Podesta emails. They found, this is where Pizzagate comes from. They found an email that had an attachment that they couldn't figure out how to open called pizza.jpg. They were like, what the hell is this? Oh, I don't know. Pizza.jpg. Do you think that means porn? Do you think that means child porn? Maybe they're sending each other porn. Blah, 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 blah. Then they figured out how to open the image, and it was like some people eating pizza. It wasn't child porn at all. And so one of the Anons says, remember the whole pizza.jpg bullshit? Exhibit A as to why we need to stop shitting our pants over every little fucking thing in these leaks. Promote the real shit. When you flood media with baseless, meaningless noise, they don't pay attention when we find useful info. Now, what does this have to do with what's happening right now? Well, to me, a lot, because I think that the Anons, like the people on 4chan, they were having a lot of fun going through these emails and sort of making up bullshit about what they meant and what was code for what. And they didn't fully really even believe it themselves, but they were doing it as a political strategy to make Hillary Clinton look like a pedophile. And they did that. This person here was like, guys, let's look for the real stuff, okay? Like, I know we're trying to fucking take over the government and smear someone for like being a pedophile Satanist, but like, can we do it the right way? Can we take the high road? Okay. When they go low, we go high. Michelle Obama said that. Satanic pedophile Michelle Obama said that. And like, while this person, like I respect their integrity, they were wrong. They were wrong. No, when you flood the media with baseless, meaningless noise, they don't pay attention when you find real shit. No, actually, you should actually flood the media with baseless, meaningless noise. And so I think about this all the time because I'm constantly finding myself in this position where, like, I'm into conspiracy theories, I'm into Epstein shit, I'm into blah, blah, blah. And I gotta say, like, a lot of times I feel like correcting people will actually, blah, blah, blah. Technically, it doesn't say that. Technically, there's like all kinds of misinformation out there about it. Next year, you're going to tell me Epstein didn't have a picture of Trump blowing Clinton. Yeah, I do have sort of similar thoughts on that. But like, I don't like Trump at all. And I do believe, I'm just reading my little script here. I do believe he is a rapist who regularly assaulted women and underage girls. I think he did. I think he totally did that. I totally think he did that. There are many, many other examples of evidence we have to that end. Yeah, I totally think that's true. I personally, at this point, I feel like it's not likely that Epstein trafficked women to him. I do think he knew about what Epstein was doing. He totally knew about it and had no issue with it. And so I don't really mind this misinformation being spread from a political strategic perspective. Like fuck Trump, fuck the Republican Party, fuck everyone who's been standing by Trump this whole time, fuck all of them, whatever. Let all the misinformation go. I don't want to be like this guy on 4chan. Guys, can we just be accurate about, no, go nuts. Post whatever you want about Trump, like post the shit about, Bubba, picture of Trump blowing Bubba. It's great that that's blown up. It's great that that's blown up. Cool. I'm very okay with all of that. But I've gone into this a little bit before on stream. I do sort of think of a lot of conspiracy theories as like a sort of satire in a way, where they're not literally true, but they are satirically true. If you read the story about, if you read, David Icke shit about lizard people, reptilians, you'd be like, if it was just a book, you'd be like, oh, what a great fucking metaphor for the elites that like rule over us and believe that they're somehow separate from us. The problem is that like the guy actually does believe that there are shape-shifting lizard people. But in a satirical sense, I don't mind people, calling Trump a pedophile. I do think that that's true. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. I got more stuff on Trump. We're not even done with the Trump stuff yet. Let's move on. So while I said I don't see any evidence that underage children were trafficked to Trump, there's plenty of evidence actually that adult women have been trafficked to the guy. Plenty of evidence. This is the script for my video essay. If you've seen on my main channel, I did a video all about Trump and Epstein's connections, every single one that we knew of, back in November 2023. It's a long time ago. And I talked about this girl. This is Valentine's Day 1998. This is Trump at a Valentine's Day party. This is his daughter, Ivanka. And who's next to him? Chelina Middlefart. Now, Chelina Middlefart was Epstein's girlfriend. Here is a picture of Chelina and Epstein at, I think this is at Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, this is at Mar-a-Lago. And this was in March 1995. Here's February 1997. Wait, is that right? Wow, yeah. This one was February 1998, right? Yeah, so this was from 1998. So a year before that, the previous February, here's again a Mar-a-Lago party. Here's Chelina Middlefart kissing Epstein. And here is November 1997. This is just 3 months before that Valentine's Day photo was taken. Here's Chelina and Epstein at a party at some art gallery. I don't know. Now, there is a lot of sort of circumstantial evidence to suggest that Chelina Middlefart was given to Trump to have as a girlfriend. This is also right after his divorce. And he's like, oh, I'm lonely. Oh, Epstein, you gotta give me one of your, who have you been dating? Give me one of your girlfriends. I got one of your girlfriends. And another thing is, this is something that Epstein did a lot. Epstein would often talk about how when he's finished with a girlfriend, they get upgraded to his friend, and he can help them when they're not his girlfriend anymore. Friend is actually a step up for him. This is something Epstein would say. And his ex-girlfriends, he would introduce them to his other rich friends. He would get them whatever jobs. He'd hook them up with like business partners. This certainly seems to be the case. And this is what like many people, not just me, have pointed out about Chelina in these photos. Now, check out this email. This is an email to that same guy, Landon Thomas Jr., New York Times reporter, who's like, yo, like, can you do something? Like, this guy's like anti-Trump. And he's like, can you say something? You could ruin him. Can you please do something? So Epstein gives Thomas something to look into. He sends him a link to Chelina Middlefart, says, this is crazy. This is crazy to me reading this. 1 second. My 20-year-old girlfriend in 93 that after 2 years, I gave to Donald. That's Chelina Middlefart. Names her. You can see her in the URL there. Isn't that nuts? Like, this is a real, like, holy shit. This is what we've been fucking saying. And here's Epstein saying it. And he's giving this scoop to the fucking Landon Thomas Jr. Never was published. Definitely never wrote an article about it. But it was out there. These guys did know. Crazy. Yes, Trelina was from a rich family. She was like different from like a lot of the girls that he would abuse and then dispose of, who were like nothing to him, were from poor backgrounds. But the women who he would be out in public with as his girlfriend tended to be very like impressive, either from wealthy backgrounds or they were like brain surgeon or some kind of model / it would be like model / Ivy League scholar genius type women. Very concerned with appearances, Epstein was. So yeah, how insane is that? How insane is that? Really insane. Also, this is not exactly to do with what I was saying, but this is interesting. From the same email that we read earlier, now everyone coming to me thinking that I have juicy info on you and Trump because of this. I've known Jeff for 15 years, that whole thing. Epstein says, would you like photo of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen? Landon Thomas Jr. Yes. And then Epstein writes, Hawaiian Tropic Girl, Lauren Petrella. I have more on that. Actually, before we get into that, because I do want to talk about it, let's get into, yeah, I know, Middle Fart. Hilarious name, I gotta say. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but even if I learned that isn't how you say it, I will not change how I say it. Middle Fart. And she has not ever said anything about Epstein, but she's still very, I don't know, rich. She's an heiress of what? Norwegian businesswoman. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's cool that people who were born into like fucking royal wealth get to say I'm a businesswoman. I'm a self-made woman. What's she again? Cosmetics heiress. And she took over running the family's health and beauty care business. Middle Fart AS. She was born in Oslo. Oh, she's Oslo. Yes. She studied in France. Blah, 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 blah. Bachelor of Science, summa cum laude. 100% owner of the investment company Middle Fart Capital AS. And in the early 90s, she was the girlfriend of Norway's crown prince Håkon. So she dated a prince, and then she dated Epstein. Crazy. And look at this. They've already put this in here. This wasn't in here before. Middle Fart was mentioned in the 2025 Epstein emails. Epstein claims he dated Middle Fart. No, that's true. He did date Middle Fart. He introduced her to Donald Trump. He describes her as my 20-year-old girlfriend in 93 that after 2 years, I gave to Donald. It's funny that they're acting like this is all from the emails. No. We have photos. We have flight logs. She's in the flight logs a bunch of times. Anyway, yeah, why would you name your business that? I mean, I assume this is because in Norway, Middle Fart means something cool. I don't think it means the same thing over here. Anyway. But yeah, now there's another lady who I've talked about at length on this stream, and I also talked about in my video. I'll just bring that up real quick. Anushka DiGiorgio. This is someone who was, there's an article, really crazy ass article. I won't go over the whole thing. I actually have a full video on this channel though, if you want to watch it, just about Anushka that I worked on with a friend of the stream, Presidential Penis, one of the top mods on the R Epstein subreddit. This was when Trump went on a date with this girl, this young woman, 20-year-old Anushka DiGiorgio. Check out this quote. Several American millionaires already had their eyes on Anushka. Okay. But she was there with Robert Maxwell's daughter, Ghislaine, who has introduced several of her attractive friends to the property developer. Anyway, there's other suspicious things in that thing. If you want to know more about that whole line of research, you can check out the video on the channel. It's called The Epstein-Trump Smoking Gun. Like this, at least up until the emails got released, this was like I think the most important link between Epstein and Trump. Now, this is actually not from the emails, but just recently, just over Halloween, Anushka did this interview. So check this out.
Donald Trump. Is it right through Ghislaine Maxwell?
I did, yes, and I met him on several occasions.
Talking about Donald Trump.
Ghislaine Maxwell did introduce me to him, and she introduced me to him with a clear message of my being with him in the same way that she had trafficked me and brought me to Jeffrey Epstein.
You met.
There you go. Right. This is a big moment. This is, yeah, Widgie. Yeah, this part of our article memorized. Yeah, me too. Sorry, is it because I bring it up too much? Or have you just also become obsessed with Anushka DiGiorgio's Trump connections? But yeah, there it is. There you go. Right? Listen, I hate to say I told you so, but this is what I was saying. Like this is what I've been telling you guys. That's why you gotta listen to me, oh Mr. Goblin. Okay. Sorry, went a little Bill Cosby there. So, this is what I'm saying. Like, these are of age women. Like, these women are like 20 or older. But actually, fun fact, it still is illegal to traffic women who are over 18. Like, just because they're not kids doesn't mean that it isn't a crime of some kind. Now, I want to talk about this other part here. Would you like photo of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen. Landon Thomas Jr. writes, yes! And people reach out to him. Apparently, Epstein never sent that. He never saw that. Epstein writes, Hawaiian Tropic Girl, Lauren Petrella, yada, 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 yada. Excuse me. Anyway, okay. So let's get into that. Who's Lauren Petrella? This was a girl who was involved in the American Dream beauty pageant in 1993. I do have a version of the entire article. We won't go through the whole thing, but it's called A Pageant of Donald Trump's Dreams. Shout out to JC in the Discord. Shout out JC. Good shit. Good find. Now this is crazy because this goes in a lot of places. I'll try not to get too distracted. This was a story about Donald Trump attending a fucking pageant, which he and Epstein used to do a lot together when they were best friends in the 90s. Trump's being an asshole. The models are sort of turned off by him, being like, what the fuck? Fuck you, man. That guy fucking sucks. Common opinion of Trump during this time by these models was that this guy's a fucking asshole. However, he's rich, whatever. He's still, he ended up dating and marrying a lot of models, but he also did some other things that maybe weren't reciprocated. For example, he went to American Dream Calendar Girls fucking beauty pageant, which was run by a couple, George Huraney and Jill Harth. Now, Jill Harth, they were friends of Trump. Jill Harth would later accuse Trump of sexual assault. She said she, grabbed her, pushed her against the wall, hands were all over her, lifting up her dress, hand on her genitals. Basically the classic, like, Access Hollywood tape, Trump, system, grab them by the pussy. If they're a star, they let you do it. Basically was what she described happening. George Huraney and her ran this, I don't know, some kind of beauty pageant or modeling agency or something. And they would stage elaborate events in which winning contestants were featured, provocatively posed in wall calendars. Now, this is the context in which we meet Petrella. So this was after one of the parties. In the early hours of the morning, Harth and Huraney left, but most of the calendar models spent the night at Trump's estate. In the pre-dawn hours, a contestant named Lauren Petrella, who at age 22 was 24 years younger than the 46-year-old Trump, allegedly found Trump unannounced and uninvited in her bed. He said, "You don't sleep with men on the first date," he told her, according to the lawsuit filed by Harth. "Now it's the second date, and here I am." Petrella did not respond to numerous requests for comment. Huraney, in interviews with the Globe, said that Petrella came to him that morning and described the encounter. "I went up to him and said, 'Donald, what the hell are you doing?' Huraney says." This is Huraney. This is like another, probably sleazy guy who runs a fucking, calendar girl modeling competition. "What the hell are you doing?" Huraney says. He says, "What do you mean?" He said, "She told me she never sleeps with the guy the first night. He's been here 2 days. I just didn't know what to say to that. It's such a stupid comment." Now, there is another fucking story about George Huraney that involves Epstein. This was another calendar girl competition that took place at Mar-a-Lago. And this is from a New York Times article. I'll just read the quote from the article. "The year was 1992, and the event was a calendar girl competition, something that George Huraney, a Florida-based businessman who ran American Dream Enterprise, had organized at Mr. Trump's request. I arranged to have some contestants fly in," Mr. Huraney recalled in an interview on Monday. "At the very first party, I said, 'Who's coming tonight?' I have 28 girls coming. It was just him, Trump, and Epstein. Just those two. So it was 28 girls being flown in for this competition to party. And the whole thing where the modeling world is really like a fucking human trafficking, sex trafficking, underage sex trafficking ring, honestly. It really does seem more and more like that the more I find out about it. A lot of these young models are like, "Oh, this is an opportunity for me to meet rich, older, men, or at least wealthy men who I might want to date." I'm sure that sort of thing goes both ways in a sense. And this was supposed to be like a VIP party where these young models would get to mix and mingle with some billionaires or just wealthy people. And in this party, 28 girls showed up and 2 guys, Trump and Epstein, the best friends. And this was a Huraney party. Mr. Huraney, who had just partnered with Mr. Trump to host events at his casino, said he was surprised. I said, "Donald, this is supposed to be a party with VIPs. You're telling me it's you and Epstein?" Anyway, crazy stuff. George Huraney. Now, here is another message from Epstein. This is just 6 months before he died. Sends his message to another one of his best friends. This was one of his late-in-life best buddies, Steve Bannon. More on him later. Bannon writes, "It'll all blow over. They're really just trying to take down Trump and doing whatever they can to do that." And Epstein says, "Yes, thanks. It's wild, because I am the one able to take him down." And it looks like lost to the sands of time, some kind of emoji. Would that emoji have shed any light on what he meant by this. This is a text, by the way, I believe. Usually him and Bannon are communicating by text or iMessage or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, the G iTunes, like the other email. But isn't that chilling? I am the only one able to take him down. And now this reminded me of another book by Michael Wolff, Too Famous, where he describes Epstein and Bannon meeting for the first time. And not in that book, but outside of that, Michael Wolff has said that he was the guy because he was interviewing Epstein and Bannon. And when Bannon left the White House in 2017, he was like, you know who you got to meet? Epstein. You know, like, you're the only guy I know who's as evil as my other evil friend. You got to meet him. Come on. And so he describes their meeting the first time. Bannon says, "You were the only person I was afraid of during the campaign," said Bannon, laughing the first time they met, meaning he believed Epstein knew dangerous secrets about Trump. "As well you should have been," replied Epstein. Yeah. Oh, you guys go eggplant emoji, crying, laughing emoji. Yeah, could be. Anyway, so like this, but up until now, we only had this on the word of Michael Wolff. But here we have a text from Epstein to Bannon, the same two people, where he's basically saying, yeah, I could destroy him if I wanted. This is right before he died, 6 months before he died. Gotta wonder, makes you wonder what was going on there. Really makes you wonder. I mean, we've been seeing a lot of shit about how Trump has been fucking infiltrating Ghislaine's prison, got her moved to another prison, mysterious reasons, seems like a secret quid pro quo. She's getting extra nice treatment in there. Like, Trump is right now pulling strings in prison for Ghislaine. Maybe he could have done that while Epstein was in jail. Just saying, when Epstein was saying, I am able to take him down. Hey, who knows? Who fucking knows? Anyway, fucking crazy. God. Oh yeah, it is cartoonishly evil. And I agree. I didn't know that people actually talked like this. Only I can bring him down. I have. It's like, okay, so you've got the fucking blackmail shit. So this part was interesting because, so there's two theories on why Trump and Epstein stopped being friends. It does seem like they definitely hated each other after 2004. And one of the theories was, and this is the one that the MAGA people like to throw around, they stopped being friends because Trump kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago, told him he wasn't allowed to be a member anymore after he recruited girls there. That seemed like it was more between Trump and Ghislaine from what Epstein's saying, but that does seem like it actually did happen. It seems like Trump actually was pissed about that. But the other theory, and I think this is more, personally, this is the one I think is more accurate between Trump and Epstein, because before it was Trump and Ghislaine, I think this one's more accurate, is that they fought over a piece of real estate. Now, here is a little thing about that. Redacted name, that's got to be Virginia as well. Virginia Giuffre worked at Mar-a-Lago. So this is him writing to Michael Wolff. Actually, funnily enough, this is him writing to himself. He emails this to himself, and then he forwards it to Michael Wolff, and he says, have fun. So he writes this to himself. Virginia Giuffre worked at Mar-a-Lago. Trump knew of it and came to my house many times during that period. The testimony of the houseman, John Alessi, confirmed it. He never got a massage. Abe Gosman, a friend of mine, ran into financial difficulty with assisted living homes. His home was listed at $45 million with no takers for months on end. So this is it. This is the one. He and I agreed on a price of $30 million. By the way, you know what? I do have a picture of this house. One sec. I can pull this up for you guys because it is fucking crazy. Here it is. Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein feuded over this mansion. So we knew a little bit about this before. Here's a picture of Trump in front of it. The classic pose you do when you know how to pose for photos. I guess this was like before he became such a fucking natural on camera. Here's another one. Here's more. Really tacky interior. This used to belong to Jeffrey Epstein's first, client, Les Wexner. There's like art inside of it. Really weird shit. I believe that's a fucking Henry Moore ass sculpture. The woman with two asses. Okay. Here's Trump. Big, really big house. Big. There's a swimming pool. And I guess the idea was that Epstein told Michael Wolff that, this must have been before The Apprentice because he's not even orange yet. He started going orange when he was on The Apprentice. Epstein was like, the only reason he brought Trump to look at this mansion was because he wanted to know how to move the swimming pool. He knew Trump was a real estate guy. He'd be like, I don't like the location of the swimming pool. I want to move it. Presumably, he wanted to move it so that you wouldn't be able to see teenage girls in it from the road. Trump was supposed to just come and learn and give Epstein a hand. And instead, Trump was like, you're giving this house away for how much? Yeah, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it instead of Epstein. And he bought it. And Epstein was pissed because he was like, I knew Trump had no money. So he was definitely getting funded from fucking some sketchy ass person. Anyway, the whole house was knocked down and now it looks like this, which I don't really think that looks better. But anyway, just to give you a little visual. So Abe Gossman, a friend of mine, that's the guy who had the house before him, ran into financial difficulty with assisted living homes. His home was listed at $45 million with no takers for months on end. He and I agreed on a price of $30 million. His wife, somebody, ends up going to jail. It's funny when they redact people's names when it's like, we know her husband's name. Why would we not be able to find it? Anyway, not really important. Ends up going to jail for lying to the bankruptcy trustee about her jewelry. This is in the summer of 2004. I became the stalking horse bidder at $36 million, i.e. if someone bid higher, I would receive a fee. Okay. Trump buys the house at telephone auction. Only me, Trump, and his friend Pulte, the developer. He quickly puts it on the market for $125 million. Serves the purpose of a justification for a high sale later, and no one will touch it. It's bought in the name of Trump Properties LLC. No idea who owns it or what else it owns. So he's right now. Epstein's saying Trump was a fucking front man for a money laundering operation. I knew he didn't have this money. A fucking LLC called Trump Properties LLC ended up buying it. That's not Trump. That's somebody else. That's a fucking shell company or whatever. I love this guy's Russian name, and I love Epstein's attempts to spell it. 3 years later, 2008, he sells it to Ryabolulev. I don't really know how to say it, but he spells it Ryabolulev for approximately $100 million. Okay, well, there's more on this later. His business model is just putting his name, $100 million. He should have had a $50 million plus capital gain. He tells people at press he spent $20 to $30 million to fix it up. That would justify a reduction in capital gains. Key question, how did he report the sale, if he did at all, on his 2008 tax return? He has no money when he buys the house. His business model is putting his name on a real estate development and gets a fee for using his name. The hotel business is just that. Somebody else buys the hotel, hoping to make a profit from its operation and eventual sale. Trump puts his name on it and gets a 2% fee and maybe a piece of the profit, if any, on any sale. He touts the project as his, just as in his current financial statements on file as president, he lists his income as the gross receipts of the clubs with no expenses deducted, not his personal revenue. I.e. the Doral Golf Club loses money every year. It pays out more than it takes in, but he lists the revenue as his income. Amazing. So here's Epstein, actually kind of seeming like he knows the fucking game of moving money around, which sometimes we're on this channel a bit skeptical that he did any of that. But another thing from the Michael Wolff tapes, Michael Wolff has like 100+ hours of interviews with Epstein, and he's released approximately 5 minutes of it. And in those 5 minutes, at one point, something that's really stuck with me was Epstein says, Trump and I, when we hung out, we talked about women and we talked about money. Those were the two topics of conversation, and it makes sense. It makes sense that those guys would talk about those two things because they are both involved in very fucking sketchy fucking operations and shenanigans and whatever you want to call it, crimes, I guess, involving both of those things. Yeah, really, really good stuff. All right. Now, I know this is the one you all been waiting for. This is the email that I think people are the most obsessed with. Bubba. So this is between Epstein and his brother Mark. All right, I'll read this. Mark says, what's your boy Donald up to now? It's 2018. Epstein says, all good. Bannon with me. This is when him and Bannon were becoming very close. Mark says, ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. The photos of Trump blowing Bubba. I'm forever blowing Bubba. Bubba. Jeffrey Epstein says, and I thought I had Cirrus. And that is a Yiddish word, I think, and it means troubles. And Mark Epstein says, you and your boy Donnie can make a remake of the movie Get Hard. Okay. And then Epstein writes back, you mean Donnie T? And then Mark writes back, I'd rather be in Donnie D's shoes. Now I got no idea what the hell any of this is talking about. I don't know what's going on. Feels to me like inside jokes between brothers because it doesn't make any sense to me. Donnie, who's Donnie D? Donnie Deutsch? Maybe. I'd rather be in Donnie D's shoes. I don't know. You and your boy Donnie. You mean Donnie T? Like I feel like they must have had a joke together where they'd be like, "Oh, fucking Donald Trump, Donnie T," and just the way they said that made each other laugh. I don't know. I mean, I don't have a brother, but I've seen people who had brothers. I don't know. I'd rather be in Donnie D's shoes. Donnie D's nuts? D's nuts? Yeah, I don't know. No, this really makes sense. Immediately, I was like, okay, well, this is just brothers bullshitting and making stupid jokes. But a lot of people have decided that this means Trump is gay. And I must say, or bisexual at least, I must say, I think that is probably true. I mean, I don't know. I think Donald Trump I could see him being gay. The guy hung out with like Roy Cohn a lot when he was young, in like the 70s and 80s. Went to a lot of gay parties, had a lot of gay friends. He talks like a gay man from, New York. Like he is kind of gay coded. Trump is, which obviously there's nothing wrong with that. But like, like if I think it's that comedian, what's his name? Caleb Heron, I think, has a thing where he's like, oh yeah, if Donald Trump was just on the fucking red carpet before the Oscars being like, you and those pumps, no honey, or whatever, like that would be great. Everyone would love that. But instead, he's like fucking orchestrating an authoritarian takeover of the government and stripping the apparatus of the state, selling for spare parts. But if he was just a gay guy, that'd be fine. And I mean, before Trump was this, now he's like anti-trans, anti-whatever, anti-LGBTQ, Republican culture war like guy who just believes all that shit and spouts those talking points. He was actually very pro-trans for a really long time. So not that if you're pro-trans you have to be gay, but like if you look back at his record, he did not give a fuck. He was in like 2009 or something. A trans woman tried to compete in his beauty pageant, and the beauty pageant shut it down. They're like, absolutely not. Get out of here. Only cis women. Probably didn't use those words exactly, but Trump was like, actually, what the fuck? No. Let her compete. Let her compete. Why would we say no? Get her in there. It's fine. It's only now that that seems insane to us. But Trump has always been pretty chill with gay people. It's interesting. It's interesting. I think it's an interesting thing. But this, I'll be honest with you guys again. I'm just being honest, giving you my honest opinion. I don't think this is anything. I don't think this means anything at all. I think this is just two brothers who are kind of fucked up in the head, obviously. At least Epstein is obviously pretty fucked up in the head, making a dumb, like, gay joke about Putin. It was fucking 2018. Who didn't make a gay joke about Trump and Putin making out? Who didn't do that? Bubba. Now, Mark Epstein has come out, I think just today, and he said, we were just joking around. It didn't mean anything. And Bubba is not Bill Clinton. Oh, I didn't even mention that. Yeah. Bubba is Bill Clinton's nickname. He's saying, but so everybody thinks there's a bunch of fucking jokes about it. Hey, I'm not above making jokes about it. I posted on Twitter like, yes, I did put his dick in my mouth, but I did not inhale. I did put Bill Clinton's dick in my mouth, but I did not inhale. It's fun. It's a fun time. It's like when we found out about the P tape rumor, regardless of whether or not it was true. It was a fun day on Twitter. But yeah, I don't think there's anything actually real here. But yeah, Mark Epstein said, no, Bubba isn't Bill Clinton. Don't worry. But he didn't technically say that there were no photos of Trump blowing some other guy named Bubba. I've also seen a rumor. I've seen some people people who are supposedly like journalists and like Epstein researchers, independent journalists, nobody who works for a major publication said this, but that I saw. But I did see some people posting, Bubba was the name of Ghislaine Maxwell's horse. It's a fucking horse. Oh my God. And as far as I can tell, that's total bullshit and is not. I looked for it for a while. Oh, yo, Bubba the Love Sponge. Yo, that could actually be it. And I think that guy was like a popular conservative radio host from Florida. So, dude, you might be totally right there. You might be 100% right on that. Bubba the Love. Let's look that up real quick. Bubba the Love Sponge Trump. Bubba the Love Sponge. Yeah, he's friends with Donald Trump. He has a public friendship with Donald Trump, which has included various media appearances and discussions, but specific details about their relationship can vary widely in interpretation. Interesting. Like, okay, dude, you are onto something there. Because not only is Bubba the Love Sponge a friend of Trump who lives in Florida, not only that, this dude and his wife were fucking swingers. He's like, to Hulk Hogan, he's like, come fuck my wife. Not only was he doing that, he was fucking filming it. He's like Epstein. He gets celebrities to fuck at his house and he films them and he collects blackmail material on them. Yo, I didn't even consider that, but you are 100% right. You are 100% right. Yeah. That's the guy. So on the tapes, there's the moment where Hulk Hogan, because Hulk was going through a difficult divorce and he was like really, really feeling low, and he would go and fuck, just my like hands fucking each other for sign language. But he would go and fuck Bubba's wife, and then they would lay in bed and talk, and he would get out all his frustrations, and he was having intimacy, sexual intimacy, but also like emotional intimacy with Bubba's wife. And there's the one where he says the N-word, and he says, my daughter's dating a black guy. I guess I'm racist, blah, blah, blah. And he says a bunch of really, really gross stuff in this moment where, to be fair to him, like he thought he was completely private and off the record. And that tape, when Hulk leaves, you see Bubba comes back in on the tape and sits down next to his wife and goes, "Oh my God, if we ever want to retire, we just got to publish that tape." And then fucking what happens with the tape? Gets published. Gawker gets a hold of it. Peter Thiel uses it to fucking destroy them. Yeah. Yep, that's the one Peter Thiel used to shut down Gawker. Yeah. It's all connected. Anyway, Bubba Love Sponge. That is totally it. Like, I'm pretty skeptical. Like when I originally read it, I was like, "What? No, I don't think so. I don't think so." And now I'm like, "Oh, Bubba the Love Sponge. That makes so much sense that I at least have to fucking entertain it as a possibility." And you know what else? So he says, Mark says, you, Jeffrey Epstein, you and your boy Donnie can make a remake of the movie Get Hard. And that is interesting because Epstein himself did swing both ways too. Epstein did occasionally, according to a lot of the victims, have sex with men, have sex with powerful men. He wasn't like trafficking them, but he did have sex with some unnamed other powerful men. If I had to throw out a few guesses, I mean, we know Les Wexner, or we don't know Les Wexner, but we can assume Les Wexner maybe was gay. A lot of rumors about him being bisexual or gay. A lot of weirdness about their relationship and their odd closeness. Mandelson was like obsessed with Epstein, called him his best friend, would hang out with him on Christmas. Peter Thiel, I mean, less evidence for that, but I don't know, maybe. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, lots of the victims, I know at least Virginia did say that, but my understanding is that other victims have said this as well. But yeah, it's not something that people talk about a lot with Epstein. It's certainly not like a major crime of his, but it does seem to be the case. I've heard there's male trafficking as well. I mean, I've definitely heard people say that. I've never seen evidence of it anywhere, or I've never seen a male trafficking victim come forward. Possible, but I don't know. All right, moving on. All right, now this section I'm calling. Okay, wait, that's the end of the Trump section. Should I say something to sum it up? So in some guys, who am I? Jeffrey Epstein being gay? Come on now. No, there's nothing wrong with being gay. That's the least problematic part about Epstein's life. That part makes him cool. No, what I was going to say is, in the end, guys, the Democrats, they sort of fucked things up by posting these 3 emails, but the Republicans fucked up more by posting all this shit. Because, God, this is going to hurt Trump a lot. Yeah, nothing makes Epstein cool. That's true.